All right, welcome back to chapter 8, items and inventory. All right, so if you guys vaguely remember in chapter 7, we got to take a look at a few listed things on lists, right? And actually one of them is going to be items list. Well, what is an items list or what is an item? Well, items, what they do is they basically give the sales process more details. Okay. And what does that mean? So exactly just like how you have a main account and you have a sub account, right? If the main account is inventory or sales, right? This is where items come into play. So instead of flooding your whole entire chart of accounts with those accounts, anything that has to do with sales process, so sales tax, inventory, cost of goods sold, charging freight, shipping, tax, all of that, discounts, all of that is going to be your items. It's broken down into items, which basically gives more details to the sales process. All right, in another form of a list. So if chart of accounts is a list, well, items and services is another list. Okay, and yes, we briefly went over a few of them because some of the sections require to create a list or create an item. Excuse me. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and take a look at QuickBooks items. Okay. So when we're taking a look at items, here are, I believe there's going to be exactly 10 items that you need to know. You need to know the difference between a service item, an inventory part, a non-inventory part, a other charge, an inventory assembly. You need to know what a subtotal group item is, and you also need to know the difference between a discount payment, sales tax, and sales tax group. So in this case, right, we've already explored a few of them, right? We explored what a discount item is, and we explored what a subtotal item is. Those are calculating items where it either helps the sales form or sales receipt, depending on which one that you use. It helps you fill it out, okay? And it helps you calculate your items. So in this case, we're mainly going to be focusing on inventory parts, because therefore inventory parts is what helps us actually build or have us purchase inventory so we can process it for our sales. So make sure you know the difference between all 10 items, and I will go ahead and go over some examples of these items. Okay. We also got to take a look at what a sales tax item and a sales tax group does, right? If you guys remember from chapter, I believe it was chapter 3 chapter 3, where we had that whole section about sales tax and how do you set the sales tax up. And so therefore, we're only down to 6 more items that we need to take a look at. And then we also looked at other charges. So in this case, like I've mentioned before, our main core thing here is focusing more or less on service items, inventory parts, inventory assembly items, and so on and so forth. Okay? So again, each description of each item is pretty straightforward. You would create a service item if you provide a service, right? So in this case, right, let's go ahead and dive right into our QuickBooks, right? Now, there's only a few ways that you can actually access the items list itself. Right here, you have items and services on your home page. And if you go to lists at the top of your menu, you have items list as the second one. All right. You can also perhaps find items list under your company, or you could actually find it under vendors, because vendors, when we talk about purchasing inventory, that's actually one of the things that you could find. So you have inventory activities right here. Oops. Inventory activities, and here you can create a new item. Okay. Now in this case, when we take a look at this, we have what's called an inventory center. Okay. Back in 2018, they actually got rid of the inventory center. I guess in 2021, they decided to bring it back. Okay. So here's the inventory center. All right. It gives you a list of all the items and services that you sell, and it gives you an update of how much inventory you actually have right here, and it gives you a description of each item itself. Okay, and of course, just like looking at any center, you would just be able to enter in new items, okay, any transactions that deal with it, such as making purchases, purchase orders, okay, and etc., or receiving items, okay. So again, this is in a new, I guess not a new edition, but it's definitely an addition to QuickBooks 21 because they brought it back. Okay. So again, yes, this is the inventory center. Now again, I primarily just want to focus on just list itself instead of inventories because we're not just strictly looking at just inventory. We are looking at both services, other charge items, and etc. Okay. So let's go ahead. So once again, you're able to, there are the two main ways. It's going to be your home page and your list on your menu bar. Okay. By default, there is no default for an icon for an items list on your icon bar. Unfortunately, you would have to create that. It doesn't exist. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and click items and services on my home page and take a look at this. I have a few items here that I've created for the company. Now in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and it's exactly the same identical way to enter in a new account, a new item, okay? You're just going to go down at the bottom, click your items, okay? And you're going to click new, okay? You can also right click anywhere on the list and be able to create a new item. So once I create a new item, the first thing you have to do is you get this drop down list that allows you to select one of the 10 options that you have in regards to what kind of item you need to create. So in this case, right, we're trying to create a service item, which is the very first at the top because we provide a service, right, to our customers. So therefore, we are going to create this item, okay? Now, let me warn you now. On an invoice or on an sale receipt, you're only limited to be using a item, okay? Because you sell something. But on a vendor or on a regular check, you have the both where you could use the accounts itself or you can actually use the item that you purchase. Okay, so just a FYI there, you're only strictly to use items only on sales forms or on invoices, but you can also have the capabilities of using both item and accounts on the on vendor bills or writing a check. Okay, so here we're going to create our first service item. All right, let's take a look in our book on what item we're going to create. We're going to create a nice photo session, okay? Here, it's not a sub item, and we'll talk about what units of measure is. Or in this case, it's not there's not a sub item. Okay, so sub items are also, once again, also the same thing like a main account and a sub account, right? It just gives a particular idea more detail. So for example, if I have a photo session, right, my sub accounts could be indoor photo session, outdoor photo session, public photo session. I don't know. You know what I mean? So if the main account or main item here is photo session, I'm going to break it down even further by saying, well, this is this one and this is that one. Okay. Same example would be if I have picture frames, I can have one for wood, I can have the one for metal, I can have one for plastic. Okay. So here we are. Okay. We're going to be creating a service item for photo session. Description, once again, it's just going to be a photo session service. We're going to charge $95. Okay. In this case, it's a service. I don't know why they kept it as a taxable item, but you shouldn't tax on services. So in your book, it's wrong here. Make sure you select that this is service. And then we're going to link it to an account called services. So let's go ahead and type it in. So this is a photo session. Okay. Description. Once again, this is not a unit of measure. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, okay? And then in this case, it is not part of an assembly. Okay, we'll talk about that in a few minutes too, because when we talk about inventory assemblies, you do have to check mark this, because when we talk about inventory assembly, right, it's when you build a product. Okay? Description, photo session services. Okay? And once again, we're going to charge $95. And this is a service, right? You can't charge tax on services. And the account, right? In this case, I actually have an account that's separate, one for services and one for actual sales. So in this case, service, okay? And just like all other types of things, you can also make this item inactive, all right? And I'm going to click OK. Okay, so there you go. I built my first service item. So then next time when I go ahead and bill my customers, right, I can say, well, I built them for 3 photo sessions and they wanted a picture frame, right? So yes, there you go. That's how you create an item. Any questions? I'm going to skip subcontracted services. It's basically where you link your service with a vendor. It's straightforward in this case. The only difference that you're doing here is you're just clicking that this item is part of assembly, and you basically are just going to attach a vendor in there. Not that difficult, right? So let's talk about non-inventory parts, okay? Hold on. We have non-inventory parts. Where's my inventory part? Okay, that's part. Okay, never mind. That's way back over in the other chapter. All right, so let's talk about non-inventory parts. What's the difference between a non-inventory part and an inventory part? Now, this is very important, especially because in inventory, right, you can make purchases of both inventory and non-inventory parts. In this case, right, a non-inventory part is going to be in similar aspects to periodic and perpetual inventory. Okay, What is periodic and perpetual inventory? Well, periodic inventory is where you only keep track of it every once in a while, okay? And you don't care about recording the sales or recording that you sold an item, because at the end of the day, you're going to go down to the basement and take a physical count of what that part is. That's periodic. And periodic is going to be more or less the same thing as a non-inventory part. Where an inventory part, if we're looking at a perpetual standpoint, you're constantly making sure that every time you purchase something, you update your inventory. Every time you sell something, you update your inventory. So at any given moment in time, you should keep a really good track record to know how much items you have in stock at all times. That's perpetual inventory, okay? But when we dive into inventory, I will go ahead and talk about that. But that's the difference between the two. Now, in context for QuickBooks, you don't understand it like periodic and perpetual. You understand it like this. Non-inventory parts is something that you don't sell often. Okay, so you have it in stock, but you don't sell it as often. So therefore, there's no reason to have to keep track of it. Okay, it's something that you just don't sell very often. Okay, or it could be a customizable item where you have to purchase it based on what a customer wants, right? Where an inventory part is your main core of selling items that you sell. You always sell it. So therefore, you always, you want to, keep a good track record for that, because you always want to sell that item, or it's a popular item that you sell often, okay? In QuickBooks, that's how you understand it. But in terminology, that's kind of hard to understand, especially when we're looking at this way. So that's why I integrated it with accounting terminology, right? Perpetual and periodic inventory. Okay. So in this case, let's go ahead and dive right in, because for the inventory part, right? That section is in the chapter is where we talk about inventory, which, I mean, I can just introduce it to you so then we can skip over that part later. So in this case, inventory part, okay, versus a non-inventory part, I already told you what that is. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a new item. So let's go ahead and let's do a inventory part, and then we'll go ahead and do a non-inventory part, okay? So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing, go down to the bottom of my window, and click new. All right, in this case, I want an inventory part. Okay, right here, it's right here, inventory, non-inventory part, inventory assemblies, inventory part. So when I go ahead and click inventory part, all of a sudden your form drops down into 3 main sections, right? A cost of goods sold, a sales, and inventory. Okay, so that's a very important. So in this case, right, I'm going to say I sell 5 by 7 frames wood. Okay, we'll talk about this in a few moments here, but in this case, is this going to be part of inventories? No, it's not. But in this case, description, 5 by 7 wooden picture frame. Okay. So again, this is what's going to be on the vendor's side, and this is going to be on the customer side. Okay. At this point, it doesn't really matter. Your description is whatever your description is. Okay. So let's take a look. So here we're going to take a look at each section here. So how much is it going to cost me to sell my items? That's going to be considered to you an expense of selling an item, right? Your main goal here is you're trying to make a profit. Well, we need to discuss about, well, how much is it going to cost you to be able to purchase it? So then when we do determine what the profit is, we're making sure that the selling price is above the actual price that it costs you to purchase them, okay? That's always the rule here. So in this case, right, I believe we bought these picture frames at $5 each, okay? Cost of goods sold is already selected here. And do we have a preferred vendor? In this case, we do. It's Ace Supply. Okay? So therefore, this is what it's going to cost me. Now, of course, this number here, the $5, it can significantly change, right? Because especially if we understand supply and demand, right? If something is if there's not abundance of something, right, the price will go up. If there's too much of something, the price will drop. So that's the supply and demand, right? So this number here, we can always change it on the purchase order form whenever we'd like. Because in reality, when you buy and order things, you're not always going to order it at the same price. No way. Just because of the rules of supply and demand, maybe they don't have enough available. Maybe they're short on stock themselves on wood. Maybe the wood that we want to use is so specific that they just don't, it's expensive to them, so that's why they have to charge you a higher price. So there's a lot of things that can happen, especially when you look fast forward in time span as well. You may have bought or have been buying picture frames with them for years, right? And they can all of a sudden raise or increase their prices too because of, the situation, right? Inflation, etc., etc. Okay? So in this case, this number here, 5, can change at any given time. And then again, your sales price. In this case, I'm actually going to charge everybody $9.99. And in this case, this is where I say this item is 100% taxable, right? Because it is a product I'm trying to sell. So therefore, I need to be able to charge my customers and charge tax on that, okay? And then this account here, this is a direct correlation to sales, okay? And then now, the last section down here is going to be where are you going to be placing these in this inventory item. In this case, my main account is called inventory asset account. Okay, inventory asset. All right. So that means when I sell an item, right, and I use this particular item, it's going to reflect, it's going to automatically link it to my cost of goods sold, right, telling me that I sold an item. And it's also going to link it to my inventory asset account to say that, well, I sold an item, so therefore it's going to decrease my inventory item. So this right here is going to use all 3 items here to be able to basically do the accounting behind the scenes to update your inventory, but also to link it to an actual sale, right? Then down here, it's going to ask you, is there a reorder point? In this case, you can ask QuickBooks to remind you when you get low on inventory to remind you by popping up a little reminder window to say, hey, you need to order more inventory, okay? And in this case, it's going to be 20 items. Max, none, on hand. Again, don't add these in here because we'll talk about how to update my inventory at all times using an inventory adjustment entry. So in this case, you never fill this part out. Do it through the inventory adjustments, right? and I'm going to click OK. So now when I sell a picture frame, it's going to be a 5x7 frame. Hold on. I think, okay, so I'm supposed to change it to frame 5x7 wood. So in this case, I flipped it. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on it, and it's going to allow me to edit this information. So in this case, I have to change this to frame 5x7 wood. All right. Once that looks good, I'm going to click OK. And now in my inventory, I have a 5x7 wooden picture frame, and I also already have a frame 5x7 metal. Okay. So I have options here. All right. Any questions here? Okay. So if not, then I'm going to go ahead and talk about a non-inventory part, something that I don't sell as often. Okay, like we mentioned before, right? In this case, I have a custom photo package. Okay. A custom photo package right here that I can use as something that I sell, but I don't know what the price point is because it's a custom photo package. I don't know what a customer is going to want from here. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and enter this in through the same exact way. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new item for this particular particular item. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and utilize the non-inventory part to create this custom photo package. Okay. So then let's go ahead. So I'm going to go back down to my items here. I'm going to click new, but this time I'm going to create a non-inventory part, right? Things that I don't really keep track of. And this is a custom photo package. Okay. Description here tells me that it's going to be a custom photo package. And in this case, I don't know what the price is. Okay, so in this case, custom photo package. Okay. Again, I don't know what the price is because I don't know what the customer is going to want in a customizable photo package. All right. And in this case, it's still going to be taxed because I'm selling a product, right, that you have to tax for. And then the account, once again, is going to be sales. Right? And, okay. That is easy. Right? So that means creating your items are so easy. All you have to do is just fill out all the information that you need to create it. So once again, it's rinse and repeat. Same thing like building your account. It's rinse and repeat. So I'm going to go ahead and skip forward to everything after this because if you can create one, you can create the rest of them. So you can create another charge item, right? We already know how to do that. You could create a sales tax item. We already took a look at an example of that on last week. Okay, and we even took a look at looking at the how to create a sales tax group, right? Which did an example of Nevada and Clark County. Right. So here we have where we're going to dive right into inventory. So in this case, they want to introduce you to what the inventory process looks like. Now, this is what they recommend. You're not obligated to do it, but this is what they recommend you to do. They recommend you that when we're looking at the purchasing inventory section or inventory itself, it's going to be revolving this section right here, right above your enter bills. Okay? So from here, this section allows you to purchase your inventory, receive your inventory, and then basically receive the bill with the inventory so that you pay the bill. Okay? And of course, that makes it here into the inventory activities. So then, or the inventory center. Now again, this section is recommended to use because if you use purchase orders, it will automatically update your inventory without you having to do an inventory adjustment. All right? But that doesn't mean you can go up to a physical store, pay for an item, right? Pay for inventory right then and there. Yes, you do have that option, and I've already mentioned it to you that you could use a Reddit checks window to go ahead and purchase items, right? Maybe you were driving and you stopped by the actual vendor's store and you paid it for right then and there. Yes, you can do that. The only problem here is that sometimes when you do that and you're not careful about linking specific items to that specific account, you can cause problems and you might accidentally not update your inventory at that point, and you would have to do an inventory adjustment, or you might have to just undo the entire thing itself. Okay? But they do recommend you to use the purchase orders to enter in all the information, because when you receive the inventory, it automatically updates inventory without you doing anything. Okay. All right, and we briefly went over the inventory center, so there you go. All right, so here it gives you a list of how the breakdown goes for when you actually do a purchase order and receive items, and etc. etc. So in this case, I'm gonna show you this. There are two different methods when we're tracking inventory, right? By default, okay. So again, this whole list is basically showing you what are the steps to be able to retrieve inventory successfully. All right, and then the next section here is going to talk about how we keep track of it. So if you guys remember, I briefly went over this. We have two different types of tracking methods used for inventory, right? Periodic and perpetual. With QuickBooks, since for each item that we made, right, you can link them to 3 different accounts. And therefore, every time you sell an item, it's automatically going to associate that you sold it and that you got rid of inventory. So therefore, by default, QuickBooks will always be using a perpetual type of inventory, okay? Where you don't need to technically go down to take a physical count. You can do that for insurance of your accounting, okay? But once again, you will probably never have periodic inventory, because even if the ones that we just said, the non-inventory part, it's still going to keep a track record of what you sold and what you purchased and etc. etc. So at the end of the day, QuickBooks keeps the track record for you without you doing anything. All you have to do is just enter in, I purchased inventory, I received inventory, I sold my inventory through selling it to my customers. And QuickBooks will do the accounting behind the scenes, and it will update the inventory for you automatically. Okay? So that's that right there. Okay? Again, I talked about the inventory center. Okay? And then here's just a little example of what you can do in regards to receiving a picture frame. Okay, so again, we'll talk about we'll talk about receiving a bill later on. Okay, because in this case, you can purchase your inventory and you can choose to pay for it, etc., etc. But in this case, I'm going to be doing something different, okay? So yes, you can do this if you like to keep your inventory track system updated and whatnot. Yes, you can go out and buy it. Yes, you can do this and that. But at the end of the day, it's best to just use the purchase orders, okay? So then again, here it says how to activate inventory if you don't have the inventory section. Once again, it's an edit preferences, and you're going to go to inventory and items, go to your company settings, and the first top of the question asks, do you use inventory? Do you keep track of inventory? And if you selected yes, then that is exactly why your home page has this section right here. If you remember when we talked about that in customizing QuickBooks, that's one of the things you could do when you're customizing your home page is, well, it's basically answering all these questions. Do you keep track of inventory? Yes, I do. So therefore it created that. Do you create estimates? Yes, you do. That's why we have estimates there. Okay. So again, that's a feature that you could toggle on the company preferences. Okay, since I already have it on, I don't need to show you any more or any further. Okay. So let's go ahead and actually start setting up inventory part items and actually take a look at how we can use or collect our inventory. So in this case, right, this is where I showed you how to create the 5x7 wooden picture frame. Okay, we've already done it. We've already linked it to our cost of goods sold. We linked it to sales, and we linked it to our inventory asset account. So let's go ahead and determine how we actually use the purchase orders or how we actually are able to do this, okay? So let's go ahead and fast forward and jump right here into this section here. So when we actually sell our items, right, in QuickBooks, there are many, not in QuickBooks. In accounting, there are many, many, many different ways on how you can calculate when you sell your inventory items. All right. In accounting, we learned there's FIFO, which is first in, first out method. We also learned LIFO, which is last in, first out method. And we also learned average costing, right, for both periodic and perpetual inventory. Now, of course, that's just only a couple that we can list off here. But this is something that you need to know as a standard default for the QuickBooks that you're currently using. So if you are using Pro, Premier, and Accountant, QuickBooks will automatically calculate your cost of goods sold as an average cost method. Okay? Meaning every time you purchase inventory, you're taking the average. Every time you sell an item, you're taking an average. Every time you return an item, you're taking an average. All right? So in this case, it doesn't matter how many items that you purchase. At the end of the day, it's going to constantly recalculate your inventory item as an average cost per item. Now in this case, the section down here will tell you and explain how average cost works. Okay, so again, the idea here is you're going to take your total cost, and you're going to divide it amongst the total amount of inventory items that you have. So in another sense, your total quantity. That is going to be your average cost. Okay? And only Premier, okay, only Premier allows you to do LIFO, FIFO. There's other ones called advanced averaging or something like that. They have other different ones in there, okay? They have, the sum of years, if you've ever heard of that one. They have even, let's see, yeah, only Enterprise has this one that you're able to do more than just average costing. So here you go. They have calculating inventory value. I've never heard of that. Okay. Or something like that. But they have a whole bunch of different methods that you can use to calculate your inventory. But that's only strictly to and for QuickBooks Enterprise. Okay. Pro, Premier, and Accountant, you're going to be only using the average costing. It's set by default. You don't have any other options to do. And that could be smart, especially for a small type of business that really doesn't, you're not going to be keeping track or, in a record this way. That you're more likely a small business would be taking an average cost more than over they wouldn't be using something like LIFO or FIFO to be able to calculate their inventory. And yes, you can manually keep a track record and then just update update your inventory adjustments accordingly, so then every time you do sell a product, it is adjusted every single time, right? All right, so right here, we could finally talking about invoicing inventory. So when you sell a product or sell an item, this is where you can utilize your invoice or your sales receipt, depending on what it is. Now, in this case, we're going to have Miss Jerry Perez. We're going to invoice him for a total of 2 frames for metals, okay, for the date of April 30th. And invoice is going to be number 106. So let's take a look at that. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and create an invoice however I'd like, right? Whether it's the home page, menu bar, customer center, or even income tracker. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to create an invoice, and this person I'm doing this for is Mr. Jerry Perez. Okay, there you go. He belongs to the, let's see, Jerry Perez. Where does he belong to? Walnut Creek. He belongs to the Walnut Creek location. Okay. Once again, the date is 4/30. Okay. And the invoice is going to be 2,000. This is supposed to be 21-106. Okay. And in this case, let's see what the quantity is. So this case, this form is different. Make sure you toggle your forms to make sure that they reflect the one that you want. In this case, there is no Imagine. So again, it used to be, it actually used to be Academy Photography, and they changed it as of 2020. Okay. So the item that he bought was the 5x7 metal picture frames, right? And he bought 2 of them, okay? Which, once again, it gets calculated. So again, in this case, my metal frames are significantly cheaper than my wooden frames, right? My selling price for my metal frames is $5.99. Once again, for any reason that you want to charge him more, or for some reason supply and demand is low, then yes, you could change the sales price right here by saying, well, maybe it's $6.49. Okay? But in this case, I'm not going to touch that. So again, once again, it's going to be taxed, right? So let's come down here, right? Since he belongs to Walnut Creek, it's going to be Contra Costa. Once again, thank you for your business. All right, memo. Purchased 2 metal 5x7 picture frame. Okay. Again, the item is taxed at Contra Costa for 8.25%, which tells us that's 99 cents. So therefore, Mr. Jerry Perez owes us in grand total $12.97. Okay. Everything looks good. Save and close. Okay. So that is that there. So that again, if you notice this, right, it says item at the top. It doesn't say account. So in this case, this is exactly what I was trying to tell you about. So it is strictly only to be used on, your items are strictly only to be used on your invoices and sales receipt. You would not be able to attach an account on here. All right? Make sure you are aware. Okay. All right. So that's that right here. Any questions? So I'm going to go ahead and show you the inventory stock status. Okay, it's a report that you can utilize to be able to view how many items you actually have left on inventory. So if I go up to the top of my window, click on report, click on I could do let's try purchases. Let's see. Nope. Oh, sorry, inventory. And I want to do an inventory stock status by item. So if I go ahead and click that, it's going to show me that, hey, your inventory, right, for the camera SR, you don't have any on hand. You don't have any on hand. Oh, and I guess we have a negative 2 frames. So I guess I was supposed to enter in that bill for receiving 40 of those picture frames. So in that case, that's okay. Don't worry about that because we will be purchasing inventory once again. I just skipped around just because, again, you don't technically have to enter in the bill because you can use the purchase orders. Or, like I've mentioned before, I can go to the store and pay for my inventory items right then and there. So here, your inventory stock status will look a little different from the book because I didn't enter in that bill. But in this case, this basically gives you how many items you have on hand, okay? And how many items that you have if you need to reorder.
Where do you see the negative 2?
So you see this one where it says frame 5x7 metal. If I go ahead and drag it under on hand, it says I have negative 2.
Okay, but I don't see the negative. That's what I just see a number 2. That's what I'm asking. Where's the? Is it too small that I cannot see it, or?
It's actually like here. I'll show you.
It's there, Erica.
It's there. It's just
Yeah, but
very.
it's tiny.
It's very
Oh,
tiny.
okay.
Yeah, there you go. Is
Okay.
that better?
Perfect. Yes, thank
Okay.
you. Okay.
It shows
Thank
negative 2s because I didn't enter in. If you remember in the book, it tells that I was supposed to enter in a bill for purchasing 40 of those metal picture frames. I didn't do that, and I ended up selling to Mr. Jerry Perez for 2 of those, and there it is. It says
Okay.
negative. Okay.
Thank you. I couldn't see the negative.
No worries. Okay, let me exit out of this. Okay. So there you go. That's negative 2 for you. All right, now this is going to be very something I'm going to keep track of because once again, your inventory center doesn't actually tell you how many items you have, which is kind of funny, right? So let's check that inventory activities and let's go to the inventory center. It just tells you how much each one you have, or the sales process, whatever the information that you have here. But again, if I do select that metal picture frame, I'll only be able to find the information on each, like right here. I don't have like basically an inventory stock status available. I do have to click on the item to show that I have -2 items in here. Okay. And it tells me right here all this information, okay, and the sales price, how much it cost me, the average cost, and etc., etc. But right here, it does not give me an inventory stock status like when I just ran that report. It just tells me information on your inventory center, on basically what your items are, and if you want to fix them, again, you can just double click on them, and it will pull up your item list here, or your item that you created. It will pop that up. Okay. So in this case, once again, your inventory stock status report is going to be your best friend to keep track of how many items you have on hand at all times. Okay. All right. So just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that right there. Okay. So let's go ahead and see what is next. Again, you can set reminders. I'm not going to do that. So in this case, because I already know I'm already below. So in this case, this is something that you guys can read on your own. All right. So now let's actually start purchasing inventory, right? I've already mentioned before, there's a couple ways that you can do it, right? You're not required to use the purchase orders. However, it makes it that much more easier to update your inventory if you use purchase orders, okay? But in this case, right, you could pay at time of purchase, okay? You can also purchase the items but pay it later, so entering a bill, okay? Just like what we're supposed to do. And then, of course, you also have your inventory ordering through purchase orders, okay? So let's go ahead and explore all of these options. So number one, right, is to pay at time of purchase, okay? So right here, purchasing inventory at a retail store. All right, so here we're going to go ahead and use a credit card transaction here to purchase a camera lens, right? We're going to purchase 5 of them, okay, from our vendor here, which is going to be Mr. Wong and Son, okay? We're going to purchase it from them, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at our little window here. And on the home page, I'm going to go ahead and click Enter Credit Card Transaction. Okay, there you go. Enter credit card transaction. Again, it's going to be to your Visa National Bank credit card, and this is a purchase, not anything else. So make sure that you toggle between the two here. This is not a refund. This is a purchase. Okay. And let's take a look here where we're purchasing. Okay. From Wong and Son, we're purchasing this on April 7. Okay. Again, reference number is going to be whatever number that you get on the receipt or billing information. So in this case, this is subjective, right? And what we're going to do is this is where you have to pay attention the most, okay? So here, right here under expenses, you see accounts, right? That means right here is where you can make your mistake. Anybody could just say, I'm going to put this into my inventory asset account. No. You do not use it this way, because in this case, I purchased a specific item, all right? I'm not going to dump it into this. This is where I was talking about that you can easily make a mistake. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to select here where it says items, and then this is where I can list out my actual items. Because here it says item right here. where expenses says that it's an account. If I type in lens, it will not populate. Okay? Lens. Right? It will not populate because there's no account called lens. It's an item. Okay? So that's important, and this is where I was talking about that you could easily make a mistake. So there you go, lens. Right? Because this is an item that I'm purchasing, right? I'm going to say I purchased 5 of them. Okay? And it says right here the cost is going to be $184. So that's fine. Customer class. And this is for Walnut Creek location. Okay. Once everything looks good, I could say purchased 5 camera lens. Okay, I think it's like super zoom lens or something like that. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to go ahead and just leave it like that right there. It says super zoom lens. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead, once everything looks good, I'm going to go ahead and click save and close. Okay. So that is right there, using a credit card transaction to be able to purchase that. Right? Okay. We can also use entering a bill. So this is where I was talking about entering a bill, right? Let's say I did end up buying the metal picture frames from Ace Supply as of the 7th, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and right here, this also has the 2 tabs right here. And this is important that you do click on items. And let's say I did buy those 5x7 metal picture frames and I bought 40 of them. Okay, where's quantity? I bought 40 of them. Okay. Which it cost me $2.15 each, right? Because I sell it at $5.99. This is from the vendor. This is me purchasing it from the vendor. And I'm going to go ahead and make a note here saying that I purchased 40 metal picture frames. Okay. And once everything looks good, once again, your reference right here is going to be whatever is your number on your billing information. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and click save and close. Okay, there you go. So now if I go to my inventory stock status report now, so let me go to my report, reports, inventory stock status by item. Now it's going to reflect that I have 5 cameras, right? 5 cameras. And now this time I actually have 38 picture frames. Okay. So this is where I just did 2 of the things, right? One is pay at time of purchase of inventory. The other one was pay later. And now the next one I'm going to show you is going to be how to use the actual purchase orders itself. Okay? So again, you have to be very careful that you're making sure that you're clicking on items so it updates your inventory accordingly. All right? Any questions here?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So then, how do I use purchase orders? Okay, so that's the last one. That's out of the 3. That's the last section that we're going to be looking at, which is going to be how do I actually use purchase orders? Okay. So if I want to be using purchase orders, I have to take a look at this, right? This section here. Right? So you could create a purchase order on the home page, and anywhere that you can enter in a bill, you would also be able to create a purchase order that way. Okay? So you got the home page, you have the menu bar. All right, create purchase orders. Okay? And if you go to the vendor center, okay, you have the capabilities of creating the purchase order as well, right? Create purchase order, right? Right click on anybody, purchase order. Okay. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and utilize this tactic where I'm making a purchase order from Ace Supply. So let me make sure I selected Ace Supply, and I'm going to right click on them, and I'm going to go ahead and create a purchase order. So what's going to happen is, boom, it's going to say, are you sure you want from Ace Supply? You say yes and tab over. So once again, it fills all the information in there for you. Now in this case, again, you can associate your purchase orders with a specific location. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and buy from Mr. Ace Supply for the Walnut Creek location. Okay. And again, discount, or I'm sorry, it says right here, drop status. You don't have to do that here. Again, so we're going to go ahead and say, well, when did you actually purchase these inventory items on? Let's see. Okay. Purchasing inventory. We purchased this on the same date, April 7th. Okay. And again, your PO number could be whatever significance that you want to do it. In this case, right, I'm going to go ahead and associate this as 2021-1. Okay, this is my first purchase order of the year. And then you're going to go ahead and continue on by listing out the items that you want to purchase. So in this case, I'm going to be purchasing a metal picture frame. Okay, and I'm going to do wooden picture frames. Okay, so in this case, I am purchasing 20 metal picture frames, and I believe I am purchasing 40 of the wooden frames. Okay. Actually, 20 of the metal and 20 of the wooden. Never mind. 2020. Okay. And then once everything looks good, right, the reference number is, 2025-1. That's, again, subjective. So then once we take a look at this, right, everything looks good, right? So this is what I was talking about. For any reason that you, due to the market or due to supply and demand, for any reason that you need to change the cost, obviously your vendor will tell you, okay? They'll notify you, or they might give you a call and let you know that that the metal frames, maybe they're low on metal, low on materials, that they charge you now. It's going to be $2.50 where it used to be $2.15. Or maybe the wood, right? There's not enough trees. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to charge you $6.49. Yes, you can come over here and change them at any given time. You're not required. I could make this $6.49, right? And it'll recalculate. So then, you just changed something. I'm gonna say no because I don't want to change it because it could be subjective, right? It could change any time. But in this case, I'm gonna revert it back to $5 because that's what I wanted to show you, that you can change it at any given time. Okay, $5. And once again, customer, you're not ordering it for a particular person. Once again, this is your custom jobs, okay? And the amounts are here, $143, okay? If you want to write a message to your vendor, go ahead. If you want to write a memo about what you did, again, a purchase order will not affect anything in regards to bills or anything like that. It will not affect your business because this is going to be considered a non-posting transaction. Two things. What is this? I'm just ordering stuff. Did I actually receive it? No. Did I pay for it? No. What is this? I'm just simply ordering. Okay? You only recognize it when you actually receive the items or you receive a bill. In this case, I'm just ordering, and therefore this has no linkage. This is called a non-posting transaction, which once again does not affect anything. It's just like an estimate, right? It has nothing to do with your sales until it's converted into an invoice. Same thing here. It's only effective when you receive your inventory items and you receive a bill. Okay? So once everything looks good, I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Close. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you that inventory stock status report because once again, I've mentioned that by just simply putting in a purchase order, let's take a look. Did any of my items in inventory was affected? No. I'm still at 38
No.
and I'm still at 5 because all I did was just submit an order. So this is what I mean by a non-posting transaction. Nothing has happened. I'm still pending on those 2020 items, but I don't actually really have them. Okay? So that's that right there. Okay? Now, let's take a look at my home page. Okay? Let's say fast forward, you did send out that purchase order. So now it's the objective here is now actually receiving the items. Now, as you can see, there's a little tiny drop down menu, okay, a little tiny triangle. And if you actually click on that, it's going to give you two options that you can do when receiving inventory, right? You can receive inventory with a bill or you can receive inventory without a bill, all right? And in this case, I'm going to show you without a bill first, and then I'm going to go ahead and show you with a bill, okay? So in this case, right, let's go ahead and explore the option without a bill. All right, so there it is. So then what we're going to get is an item receipt. Now, this is very common of a lot of businesses is that they end up shipping you, items without a bill, okay? So this is very common, especially when it's either that the company received your purchase order, but what happens is that you don't get all of the items in the actual package, all right? Because it could be a split package. Maybe they're low on stock themselves. Maybe they're back ordering, okay? So if that's the case, they're just going to ship out to you whatever that they have, okay? And so in this case, right, what I'm going to do here for the item receipt is say, well, I received it from a supply. And then it's going to give you a little pop-up menu window that says, wait, you have an open purchase order. Is this the one that you want to, are you trying to convert? And you want to say yes. Okay, and it's going to open up this item right here where it says, hey, I want this. Okay, and I'm going to click OK. So once you've done that, right, I'm going to manually change this and say, well, I only received 10 of the metal frames and I only received 10 of the wooden frames, right? Half of the inventory items. Okay. Okay. So this is the same thing. So if you've ever ran a business before, right, you can get what's called a packaging slip. The packaging slip is very important, especially if you're buying items in large quantities, because if this is shipment 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 5, you need to make sure that you open up all those boxes with the packaging slip on it and confirm that you received all your items, okay? So in this case, I did not receive all my items. I only received half of my items, okay? And of course, your packaging slip is going to have some kind of reference number, okay? So in this case, you can use the actual purchase order itself. So I normally go purchase order 2021-1. And then what I also do say here is this is part A. Okay? You can use whatever number that you want to use here. I believe your book just says just use 2021-1. But in this case, I want to link this to the actual purchase order because, you know, when I'm looking at this order, at least I can see that this is part A, or, you know, it's a part of the order. It's not the full order, okay? And this is for the purchase order that I've done earlier, right? So I'm linking it not only to just my order itself, right? I'm also making a link that this belongs to this purchase order. So once everything looks good, okay, and I received it on the 7th. Okay, I'm gonna make this more realistic. I'm gonna say you submitted it, so maybe by the end of the day, yeah, you received it on the 7th. Okay, 7th. So once again, it says that, okay, well, I received it for the $71.50. And I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Close. Right? Now, if I go ahead and do my inventory stock status one more time, or I do open purchase orders, you're going to see this. So let's do the inventory stock status first, okay? Inventory stock status. Now, I increased my metal frames by 10, and I've increased my wooden frames by 10 as well, okay? But let's go ahead and see that open purchase orders window, okay, or report. So in this case, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to purchases, and I'm going to take a look at open purchase orders report, okay? So what you're going to see here is that you're going to notice that you have a purchase order, okay, for the items here. Now, if I double click on it, it's going to show me this, right? Now, let's take a closer look on the right side of the panel. It says here that you have a purchase order, and look, it says that you received items. Okay, hold on. Received transactions, okay? And that okay, here you go. So here it says that you received 10 out of the items. So therefore, you have, for the purchase orders, right, you received 10 of them. So therefore, the next time that you actually open up your purchase orders, it's going to reflect that you need to receive the remaining of the 10. So as you can see here, it says the related transactions. It says right here, item receipt on 4/7 that you received 10 of the metal frames and 10 of the wooden frames. Okay, so here not only is QuickBooks keeping track right here of your purchase orders, right? You're able to view it. So instead of keeping track of the packaging slips itself, because you entered in and you only received half the inventory, it updates it for you and allows you to view it here. Okay, so that's what I want to show you here in your open purchase orders. It gives you in detail what you've received and what you haven't received. Okay, so let's go see right here. Now it says that you did receive half of it, so therefore you only owe total now for $71.64. Okay. So then let's say a few days later, right, you receive the second one. So this is important that you have to do. You need to do this step before completing the rest. So here you go. I'm going to go ahead and review my second item receipt, okay, for Ace Supply. So once again, when I do that, it tells me I have an open invoice. I'm sorry, an open purchase order. I click yes. This is the one I'm gonna get, and I'm gonna click OK. Now notice this. It already updated the information for me, saying, well, I must have received the rest of the stuff. And in this case, I did. All right, and of course, I'm going to change the date to make it a little more realistic, saying, okay, maybe it was a back order, and they sent it to me on the 10th. And the reference, again, is going to be PO 2021-1, Part B. All right, and again, it was for the $71.50. Okay, so there it is. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Close. So what happens to the item receipts? Well, let's take a look. Okay. So in this case, usually the last packaging slip will actually have your receipt that comes with it. So notice this. Take a look at these item receipts. You see them right there? Okay. Now there are a couple ways that you can be able to convert these into bills, and that's exactly what we're going to do. All right, so if I click my item receipt, notice at the very top, you can say bill was received. All right. But that's a hidden one that not many people know about. So the one that I want to show you is going to be straightforward. Okay. Where when we look at the home page, right? What happens when I receive my items? I must receive bill against inventory. Okay, what does that mean? Well, let's take a look. If I go ahead and click this, right? It gives me this window and I say, well, I'm looking at Ace Supply. Okay? When I look at Ace Supply, it's going to pull up my 2 item lists that I have. And here it is. PO 2021A and then PO 2021B. Now in this case, I received the bill on the 10th. So I can only select one bill. Or one item receipt. I can't select both of them. Okay? Okay? So here again, it says right here, you can use the item receipt date. In this case, no, I'm not going to be able to use it because I received the bill on the last packaging slip. So in this case, I can only select one of the items receipt and click OK. So what happens is if you just saw that, the item receipt converted into a bill. Okay, and look, notice this, it says item receipt bill has been received. So once again, the date is correct, and what you're going to do again, your billing information is going to be different, right? It's going to be whatever that's on your actual bill itself. So let me see if there is one here. When you receive the bill, let's see. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and make up a bill number. And I'm going to say this is bill number 56 or 4562. Okay. I think it does have the actual number on it, but I don't know what it is. All right, the date right there. Okay. And again, it's for the 10 items. Okay, the 10 items that you purchased. All right, and save and close. All right, and then it says you've changed, just say yes. Okay, so you should get a beep of approval if you have sound. Okay, now let's notice this. Let's take a look at my vendor center. The bill that I had, the item receipt, is converted into a bill. Okay, automatically. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at that other, I clicked purchase order. Excuse me. So let's go ahead and take a look at that item receipt. If I do go ahead and use this section here where I just click on bill as received, it will automatically convert it into a bill. Right, straightforward, right then and there. But the only difference here is that you will be getting 4563. Because usually in this case, this is what the downside is. You cannot link multiple purchase orders, you cannot link multiple item receipts and be able to use it into one bill. So in this case, you do need to do a slight difference saying, okay, well, this is bill number 1, this is bill number 2. Okay, most cases, they will never send you a separate bill for each packaging slip. They will give you a grand total 1 bill, okay? But unfortunately, QuickBooks isn't, that's probably one of the things that QuickBooks can't do is to link multiple item receipts into one bill, right? So unfortunately, you would have to enter them in a bill to separately instead of together. So there it is. I converted my item receipt. Now they become bills. All right. Any questions there?
No,
Okay. All right. So I'm going to show you another example here. So this is another off the book. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to create another purchase order. Okay. And this time I'm going to do it for Ace Supply. And this time it's going to be for the San Jose location. And I'm going to go ahead and purchase the Camera SR32. Okay? And here it tells you the information. And let's say I'm going to buy 5 of them. Okay? Because actually, maybe, yeah, I'm going to buy 5 of them. Just so then I have them on stock for my business, right? In this case, it's going to cost me $450. That's fine. Okay? And of course, the date I'm going to say is going to be on the 12th. All right. And this, once again, is going to be PO number 2021-2. You can write a message to your vendor if you'd like. And once that looks good, I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Close. Now, I'm going to show you what happens if I actually go ahead and click on here and say I actually received the inventory items with the bill. It's going to automatically create a bill right then and there. All right. And then once again, I'm going to click a supply. You have an open purchase order. I click on here. I click OK. And boom, all the information fills in for you automatically, receiving 5 cameras. And of course, I'm going to toggle the date real quick saying this, I received it on the 15th. And the reference number, once again, it's whatever number that you want to put here. So I'm going to do 4567. Okay. And once everything looks good. So that's the difference between looking at receiving a bill versus receiving items without a bill. Okay. One is an actual bill. And then the other one is it becomes an item receipt, which once again, that's a packaging slip. So once you've first got all of your items that you received from the packaging slips, you're going to convert that into a bill. Okay. So again, that's very common practice of many companies, especially if you're buying them from a store and you're buying in bulk, or they end up shipping you only a part of the what you requested because they could be in back stock, right? So any questions in regards on how to use the purchase order and how to use receive items with the bill and receiving without a bill? No? Nothing? Okay. Okay, so then let's see what this says here. Okay, so now it says using purchase orders. We already talked about using purchase orders, right? We made our purchase order for the 20 and 20 of those things, and we received the items with a bill and without a bill. So let's take a look at this next section here, where it allows you to attach or entering any final shipments on a bill. So again, you can also be charged tax or charged shipment fees. So again, if there any reason that you have received a bill and they do include the extra shipping fee on here. So again, here, let's take a look at this item receipt. You can actually convert this bill, and when you convert the bill, you can attach a line item for shipping. Okay. So again, when I take a look at that bill, right, I can modify and add extra charges on there. Again, it's straightforward. If you can read the book, it says purchase orders. Once you receive the items, then you would attach that, you would attach another charge to charge shipping, and it would automatically calculate for you on that. Okay. So again, here's another item receipt. Let's say you did receive the last 10 of them and you got charged shipping here. Okay? So there we go. Here you go. Receiving the items with inventory. Okay? Then there's also extra stuff here that you could do. Again, I went off the book to show you what the example is for receiving items with a bill. So again, here in this case, I believe in this exercise here, it tells you that you can attach other stuff on there. Okay, so we are good on time. Any questions right now for in regards to the whole receiving and using the purchase orders?
No.
Okay, so let's go ahead and stop here. It's exactly 10 o'clock. Oh, yes, you have a question?
No, I was just saying I didn't have any.
Okay, perfect. Well, we are exactly at 10 o'clock. So let's go ahead and take our 15-minute break now, and then we'll continue the rest of the chapter when we come back from our break.